Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we are unpacking a story that completely took the reading world by storm. I mean, it quietly built this dedicated audience before absolutely exploding into a massive book talk phenomenon. I'm talking, of course, about Taylor Jenkins Reid's 2017 novel, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. We're going to explore the cinematic, glamorous, and honestly, deeply scandalous look at a legendary Hollywood icon. We'll be piecing together a hidden life, looking at the staggering, very real cost of fame, and uncovering a love story that history completely overlooked. So, the crucial point that kicks off this whole narrative is a massive mystery. Why Monique Grant? And why now? See, Evelyn Hugo is this aging, reclusive starlet who has finally decided to auction off her collection of famous gowns for a breast cancer charity. But she has one strict demand. She will only speak to a writer named Monique Grant. This totally baffles the journalism community, and honestly, it astounds Monique herself. Monique is an unknown, struggling magazine reporter. Her career has completely stagnated, and to top it all off, her husband David just left her. She is not exactly on top of the world right now, so why on earth would a Hollywood legend summon her?
Well, that brings us here. Evelyn summons this young, totally confused journalist to her luxurious Upper East Side apartment. And when they finally meet face to face, Evelyn drops a complete bombshell. She doesn't want to do a simple interview about some dresses. No, she wants Monique to write her entire, unvarnished biography, the whole shebang. And the only clue Evelyn gives for choosing her? An article Monique recently wrote about assisted suicide. It's such a tantalizing hook. Evelyn promises that if Monique takes the job, every single question she has will be answered by the end of their time together. Monique is desperate to jumpstart her career, so naturally, she accepts.
This setup brilliantly illustrates the sheer scope of Evelyn's story. I mean, we're looking at a decade-spanning journey. She starts out as a poor Cuban girl desperately trying to escape poverty in Hell's Kitchen in the 1950s. She makes her way to Los Angeles, and by the 1960s, she is navigating the absolute heights and depths of Hollywood's golden age, ruthlessly manufacturing her own fame. Finally, in the late 1980s, she just decides to walk away and leave show business entirely. It is this epic, sweeping trajectory of ambition and survival. Section 1, the 7 strategic marriages. Because, let's be real, you can't talk about Evelyn Hugo without talking about the dazzling, superficial facade that defined her public image. Evelyn's ruthless ambition drove her to use these marriages not for true romance, but as highly calculated tools. Let's actually break this down. Ernie Diaz, purely a ticket out of poverty and a ride to Hollywood when she was just 14 years old. Don Adler was Hollywood royalty who seemed charming but turned abusive, completely shattering her illusions about the industry. Then there's Mick Riva, a brief union orchestrated entirely for media attention and to cover up a scandal. Rex North was a strategic, non-romantic partnership to advance both of their careers. Harry Cameron was a marriage of convenience, though, to be fair, he was her best friend and a long-standing ally. Max Gerard was a director who loved her glamorous image but couldn't handle her actual ambition. And finally, Robert Jamieson, who happened to be Celia's brother, was a marriage meant solely to protect her legacy and her greatest secret. The way the biography itself is structured is so clever. Evelyn organizes the story of her life around these 7 eras, and the specific adjectives she uses reveal her totally unvarnished, retrospective opinions of these guys. She gives us the brilliant, kind-hearted, tortured Harry Cameron right alongside the gullible Mick Riva. It immediately tells us, the audience, that Evelyn is in complete control of her narrative now. She's entirely done pretending. Which brings us to Section 2, the true hidden love. Because all those 7 men, they were just smoke and mirrors. This is the emotional gut punch of the entire explainer. When Monique finally pushes Evelyn to reveal the great love of her life, Evelyn doesn't name a man. She names Celia St. James, a fellow actress. From the very moment they met on set, they had this undeniable chemistry that evolved into an incredibly deep, messy, and passionate connection. Celia was the one person who saw right through Evelyn's carefully constructed Hollywood facade and loved her fiercely for who she actually was. But the tragedy of their love story? It's entirely about their timing. To truly understand why their timing was so tragic, we have to look at the historical context. Specifically, think about Eve Kosafoksky-Sedgwick's theory on the politics of the closet. In the mid-20th century, the Hollywood studio system was exceptionally homophobic. It was a machine perfectly designed to control images, and queerness, especially for women, was totally unacceptable. To survive and succeed, individuals were forced to perform heterosexual conformity. Evelyn realizes early on that if the truth came out, her career and Celia's would be instantly destroyed. So her marriages to men were quite literally a disguise. They were a closet built out of wedding rings to protect the woman she actually loved. But it is absolutely crucial to note how Evelyn identifies herself. She fiercely defends her bisexual identity to Monique, saying, "I'm bisexual. Don't ignore half of me so you can fit me into a box." She refuses to let history or her own biographer erase a fundamental part of who she is just to make her story easier for people to digest. She loved men like her best friend Harry, but her true soulmate was Celia. She demands to be seen in her entirety. And this just brilliantly illustrates the central struggle of her entire life. Her public persona was the glamorous, straight starlet defined entirely by the men she married. But her private reality? A bisexual woman deeply devoted to Celia, making incredibly morally compromised choices to protect her loved ones, and suffering profound loneliness because she could never truly be known by the public. It's the ultimate gap between the story a woman tells the world and the story she actually lived. Okay, Section 3, the darker side of fame. Because Evelyn Hugo is not just a victim of a restrictive society, she is a survivor who did some shocking things to stay on top. We can see how this builds step by step into some truly dark territory. Evelyn confesses to Monique that she didn't just play the Hollywood game, she manipulated it ruthlessly. Step 1. She regularly manipulated the media, faked pregnancies, and actively sabotaged her rivals just to maintain her power. But step 2? This is the biggest bombshell. The sources reveal she deliberately caused the car accident that killed her abusive second husband, Don Adler, after she discovered his abuse towards Celia. She made terrible, deeply ambiguous choices to protect herself and the people she loved. And step 3, she orchestrated this elaborate web of secrets to cover it all up, a web that stretches all the way into the present day, sitting right across the room from Monique. So, we finally arrive at the devastating twist. Why, Monique? Well, the sources explain that their lives intersect in a tragic and completely irreversible way. Evelyn specifically chose this struggling journalist because Monique is actually the daughter of Evelyn's secret child. I know, right? It's a massive revelation that ties all of Evelyn's ruthless choices, her desire for a legacy, and her complex relationship with motherhood together into one devastating emotional impact, both for Monique and for us as the audience. Which brings us to our cinematic resolution. Section 4. Legacy, sacrifice, and truth. Let's look at what all of this ultimately means. The ultimate takeaway of Evelyn's entire confession is that history gets it wrong. It remembers the gowns, the glamour, the flashbulbs, and the 7 husbands. It remembers the perfectly manufactured public life, but it completely hides the profound sacrifices, the dark secrets, and the hidden loves, like Celia St. James, that actually defined who a person is behind closed doors. Evelyn's story is a testament to the heavy, heavy price paid for success in a cutthroat world. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought. Looking at the unbelievable trajectory of Evelyn Hugo's life, her moral compromises, and her hidden devotion, we have to ask ourselves, how much of ourselves do we give away for love, for fame, or just to survive and stay afloat? It completely shatters that whole Hollywood facade, doesn't it? It leaves you questioning the true cost of the stories we choose to tell the world. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope it leaves you as fascinated by Evelyn Hugo as I am.